Lydia, Cathy, Tamale. I work with the AIDS support organization TASO, where I head human resource and administration. To me and my colleagues, that's Dr. David Kajimo, Irene Murungi, Roach Patience, and Dr. Quite Bernard Michael, who is an executive director, wrote an abstract on religious leaders' role in addressing sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment at community level. And we took note that sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment is a sexual misconduct, a global issue that affects individuals across religions, cultures, and societies. We also noted that it's a complex a complex matter, and it involves ethical, institutional, legal, and theological concerns. While doctrines vary, traditions and religious perspectives on sexual misconduct also vary. This requires all of us as religious leaders to ensure that we take note of the ethical principles of human dignity, respect for personal boundaries, promotion of justice, compassion, integrity, modesty, rights of women and victims, sexual ethics, and community responsibilities in the perspective. Safeguarding, that is protection from sexual exploitation, harassment, and abuse, involves the need for ethical conduct, compassion, mindfulness, non-exploitation, healing and reconciliation, support for survivors, and increased accountability in places of worship. There is a growing global recognition within many religious communities of the importance of addressing sexual misconduct as a moral and social issue. This sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment requires safeguarding, in that it will require involvement of religious leaders in cases of sexual misconduct, and ensure that the religious leaders take the upper hand in addressing this vice within our communities. By so doing, they will continue to ensure that we transform our communities and promote transparency, justice for the victims, and support for our communities. Definitions of sexual exploitation, sexual abuse, and sexual harassment. This is what we have recorded. Sexual exploitation is the actual or threatened abuse of a position of vulnerability, differentiation power, or trust for sexual purposes, including profiting monetarily, socially, or politically from the sexual exploitation of another person, mostly a vulnerable person. Sexual abuse is the actual or threatened physical intrusion of a sexual nature, whether by force or under unequal coercion conditions or coercive conditions. Sexual harassment is any unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature that might reasonably be expected or perceived to cause offense or humiliation. May involve any conduct of a verbal, non-verbal, or physical nature, including written and electronic communications. 2 surveys were conducted at TASO, a national organization covering almost all the districts in Uganda. The tool was an anonymous survey tool using Kobo Collect software, and participants used a Google link to access the anonymized questionnaires. A total of 166 respondents, including some human resources for health staff, provided meaningful insight into the need to address sexual misconduct. Human resources for health, these are really, health workers based at the different government facilities. So these 2 surveys were conducted at TASO, and the results we received was that 52.7% reported knowledge of sexual misconduct. 5% had experienced sexual misconduct, and 13.5% had witnessed sexual misconduct incidents. 40.5% were uncomfortable reporting incidents of sexual misconduct. Now, take note that some of these were not within TASO, but even within the communities. 81.1% believed that appropriate action would be taken. 64.9% felt confident to report sexual misconduct cases. These surveys recommended prioritizing religious leaders, especially religious leaders, in protection from sexual misconduct due to their first-hand support to the most vulnerable, who are usually victims of safeguarding and their congregants. To reduce risk of harm during operational activities is key. It's an important thing for us to do. We need to ensure that children and adults are safe and feel safe with staff and partners wherever we work. To maintain a good reputation, to win donor confidence, but also community acceptance. Safeguarding principles internally, we have the approaches that we can use. We would look at an approach where we have relationships between individuals. For example, a religious leader and a lay person in the community. The externals would be when ministering to religious communities. We would really look forward to a moment where the religious leaders come out with a message to our communities, and it is all relayed in maybe 1 week, maybe in a month, and we are all talking about sex exploitation, sexual abuse, and harassment, and guiding people on where and how to report this and how to find support in case of an attempt or an attack in that context. So religious leaders have a very big responsibility, because on top of preaching the word, on top of sharing the message of God, we have a responsibility of protecting, safeguarding our communities. And this will be a beautiful thing for us as religious leaders to do. I believe that it will be a multiplier effect. For example, the religious leader, maybe in the Muslim sect, communicating on Friday, Saturday, we have the Seventh Adventist, Sunday, we have the Catholics, Anglicans, Pentecostals, all of them talking about the same message relayed down to the people and guiding them on how to handle this. Some of these vices that are happening at families, that are happening at community level, that are happening in churches or fellowship places of worship will be controlled, and people will be protected. We believe that some of the activities we can do actually together as religious leaders is to mobilize resources to promote safeguarding. We need to conduct assessments to establish knowledge and sexual misconduct among religious institutions, but also need to develop and have policies related to safeguarding within our places of work. I know Makerere University has done already a survey, and a policy is out, is being launched recently. We can do the same for all the places of worship, because this is where the vulnerable people are mostly. So if we don't have such policies in place, then we are likely going to abuse them. We are likely going to suppress them, and at the end of it all, people will not accept us. We need to mobilize and train religious leaders on matters of safeguarding. We need to facilitate activities including meetings with faith institutions and develop a customized communique on safeguarding. Print and disseminate the communique to religious leaders to address this message to their congregations. Then print and share referral pathways to religious leaders in case someone is affected. Where do you go? How do you handle this and that? We need to create reporting tools and document sexual misconduct and consequences, so that people get to know, if I go through this, this is what is going to happen to me, and my community will not accept me. And it is important for all of us to work together. And I call upon the religious leaders to take on this responsibility, and together we shall safeguard our communities. Thank you.